Hi, and welcome to Fantastic Living. I'm your host, Thuy Phan. Today I'm going to show you how to make a really delicious soup that's not only fast, it's semi-healthy because there's kale in it, and it's a soup that was made popular by Olive Garden, which everybody knows and loves, and it's called Zuppa Toscana, and it literally translates to soup of Tuscany, but this wasn't originated in Tuscany. It was just something that the Olive Garden named and made popular, and it's one of those dishes that it only takes about 30 minutes from start to finish if you've got everything prepped, and it should be fast, and it freezes well too. And every time that I've had this soup, it just hits you right in the soul, and it just feels like a nice big hug in a cup. So I think this is something good to have in your repertoire so that you learn how to make. And all you need for it is a bunch of kale. You need some bacon for this, and then some potatoes. You'll need about 4 russet potatoes, which are bigger, but these are smaller, so we'll need about 8 of these. Then you need some garlic, and then an onion, and then you also need some sausage. Now this is mild Italian sausage, but you can also use the spicy one, so it gives it a little bit of a kick, but obviously if it's spicy, it's not as kid-friendly, so we're using mild Italian sausage today. And then you also need about a cup of heavy cream. It's gonna thicken the soup up a little bit, and then you also need about 32 ounces of chicken stock or chicken broth. So it's 1 pot meal, so that's, you only have to wash one big pot, so that makes it easier too. So what we'll do now is we'll start chopping our veggies, and then we'll prep our meats, and then we can get the soup started. So what we'll do first is I will mince the garlic, and this just kind of adds a nice flavor to the soup. And a funny story is that this soup, I was not introduced to it via Olive Garden. A good friend of mine named Peter, he makes this soup. And the first time I had it, I'm like, what is this? This is so good. And he told me, oh, it's called Zuppa Toscana. And it's just so good. And every time we have a potluck, we ask him to bring it because it's so good. So I thought it'd be a good idea to learn how to make it and try it for myself. And a great thing about this soup is it's actually not too complex as far as making it, and it just has so many good flavors, and it doesn't take too long either, so those are all good things. There's kale in there, so basically it's healthy. If there's kale in it, it's good. So here's our minced garlic. And although this soup has cream in it, it's actually a pretty brothy soup. But if you wanted to make it more creamy, you can just thicken it up with either flour or cornstarch, or add extra cream. But there's our garlic. Now we'll cut our onion. And you just want to dice the onion. So add a nice sweetness to the soup, some more textures. The only sad thing is I don't have unlimited breadsticks to go with this. Maybe that's the next thing to learn. Onions are diced. So here I have a bunch of kale. I actually bought the kale that's already pre-washed and pre-cut, which makes life a lot easier. But if you were to buy the kale in its whole form, you would just want to remove the ribs so it's not so woody and stemmy. But here, this is already done for you, so that's another time saver. And a good thing about the soup is it is pretty good frozen. You can freeze it and then defrost it for another rainy day. But when you're doing that, what you can do is just add new kale in there when you're heating it up, and then it's like a brand new soup. Okay, now our potatoes. Potatoes make it nice and hearty. last one. So now our potatoes are peeled. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna cut them into quarters and then half again. Okay, our potatoes are done. And now what we'll do is we'll cut our bacon. We just want to cut it into little bite-sized pieces. You know, bacon and sausage doesn't seem that healthy, but with the kale, it kind of just balances it out, right? Okay, so now our sausage, I have it in the link, so what we want to do is remove the casing for it. And so we crumble it. Just want to remove that. And that's pretty much it. All our prep is done. Now what we're going to do is we will go to the stove, turn on our pan, and then start building our soup. Okay, so now we're at the stove, and what we're gonna do is turn it on and get your pan on there. And first what we will do is we will fry our bacon and our sausage and remove that and add that later on, and then we'll use that bacon grease to cook up the onions and get a little bit of flavor in there, but we won't use all of the bacon grease, so turn it up. It just takes a couple of minutes, and we will keep swishing around so it turns golden brown. Bacon is done. Now we'll add our sausage. Sausage is done. So from here, what we will do is we will add our onions. We'll saute this for about 5 minutes until they turn translucent. So to this we will add 2 tablespoons of flour, and this will help thicken up the soup. And then once we add this in, we will also add the garlic in, and everything else goes into. Garlic. Okay, this is when we add our chicken broth in. We'll let it decrease the pan. And now to this, we'll add our potatoes and we'll let it cook for about 15 minutes till it's about fork tender, not too mushy. Well, it still holds its shape. And then we'll add back everything else and finish it up with some heavy cream, and then we'll add our kale. It's gonna be delicious. So the soup has been cooking for about 15 minutes and the potatoes are fork tender. At this point, this is where we just finish it up and we add everything to it and taste it and adjust the seasoning as we need. It just needs salt and pepper, so you can adjust it to your liking. We'll add the bacon back in. Just a little bit. We'll add our sausage. That is a very hearty soup so far. So this will add the cream. Let us taste the soup, see what it needs. Pretty much perfect. Nice and creamy, but also not too creamy. Okay, now let's add our kale. Just let this wilt. It's all done. Just a little crack of salt and pepper. Good. And our soup is ready, so we will ladle it up and give it a taste test. Our soup is all done. It smells so good. Just gonna add a little bit of cracked pepper on top to finish it off. Let's give this a try. That hits you just right here. It's so good. It's not too overpowering. It's so chock full of goodies in here. There's kale, the sausage and bacon, the potatoes, so good. Yum, that's just perfect. Potatoes are not too mushy and not potatoes are not too mushy. Just right. Yeah, it's so good. Now that you know how to make this, you'll never have to go back to Olive Garden. And actually, I think this is probably better than Olive Garden. You know exactly what's going in there. And of course, it was made with love, so yum. Zuppa Toscana. So good.